We are celebrating one of the most beloved British actresses in history today with the very, very sad recent passing of Maggie Smith. We're looking at her entire career, what we want to see from her, some of our favourites of hers, and even spending some time on fun and games featuring Maggie Smith as well. It is, of course, spooky season, though October is upon us here on Monday Madness. We've been watching some nice horror movies as well for our What's Up today. All that and more, of course. Get ready for the fun. Welcome back to the Madness. Hello everyone, welcome back to Monday Madness with Morgan and the Machine. We're going to try and not make it such a solemn, somber episode today. And I know, obviously, it has been a sad time. It seems like we've been inundated with fairly big name passings in the last week or so. But the Maggie Smith one really did.
Well, that was a tough one.
Rather hard. 89, I think.
Yes, she would have been 90 this December.
Yeah. So, I mean, 89's not anything to complain too much about. I always find it strange that kind of that's the first thing we think of. But I suppose it naturally kind of is.
Yeah.
Isn't it? When someone passes away, how old were they? And what is that cut-off age between, like, oh, that's too early?
Yeah, where you think they've lived a long, good life. Yeah.
Is it like once you get late 80s, do you think, like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They've lived
maybe,
a life.
Maybe it is that.
Yeah.
Maybe it is that. But it's not the only thing we are talking about today. I suppose we are excited about a few things as well. Although I do think it's going to be a very interesting, fun, celebratory Let's Talk discussion on Maggie Smith today and all the great work she has done, of course. I will begin the episode, Jeannine, by asking the question. So, Jeannine.
Well, of course, you said it is spooky season, so we've been watching spooky things. I finally watched Cuckoo. That was one I had wanted to see, but I missed its theatrical run, and I saw it was available to rent at home, so I decided to rent it for night one of spooky season. So I recently watched that. Yeah, because I really love Hunter Schafer. I thought the trailer looked kind of weird and interesting. I feel like that's kind of been the trend of horror that's been coming out. I think Strange Darling, The Front Room, The Substance, all kind of horror with some interesting campy tones. And Cuckoo was very much in that vein as well. I think Dan Stevens really brought a lot of the campiness to the film. The story basically follows Hunter Schafer's character. She's a 17-year-old girl who ends up having to move with her father, who she's not incredibly close with, who is moving to the German Alps. So she's leaving America to live in the German Alps with her father, his new wife, and their young daughter. So she's kind of just not wanting to be there. And they end up kind of staying at this resort run by Dan Stevens. So where they're staying is like on the property or nearby this resort. And so she, Dan Stevens offers her a job to work at the resort, but strange things kind of start happening and she doesn't really know what's going on.
I find it interesting that Dan Stevens is the one bringing campy elements. He always seems a rather serious. Maybe he's got a very serious kind of stern face. But
I think he's very much like, from what I know of that show Legion, his role in The Guest, I think even Once You See Abigail, I feel like he's very much like a Colin Farrell, someone who is very attractive, but really kind of tries to not play that up in his characters in order to kind of focus on more of a raw performance. Um, so definitely in things like Abigail and this, I've seen him really lean into kind of not taking himself super seriously.
Well, that's
Um,
always good.
yes. I don't wanna spoil anything, but
Yep.
generally, if I'm kind of wanting to at least give a kind of parameter of what the story was reminding me of, it was giving me kind of themes and tones of something like Barbarian. Um,
Ah, okay.
yes,
With
so there
shocking things going on out of nowhere, basically.
yes, but even kind of the ultimate theme of that film or, like,
Okay.
characterizations of things that are happening felt
Yeah.
very similar to Barbarian.
Mm.
I will say, while I think there were some scary elements, I think the performances are really good. And I liked kind of the idea of the story. It didn't feel wholly focused. It felt like there were pieces missing almost. Like it
Okay.
wasn't fully put together. So it felt um kind of like there were bits like it felt unfinished a little bit for me.
Mm.
Um, so
Okay.
generally, I kind of liked the vibes, I liked the atmosphere of this kind of creepy resort location. Um, we get a lot of characters that they just kind of disappear or they're not very well fleshed out. So yeah, generally interesting story what they were going with, great performances, the atmosphere is great. There's the title's Cuckoo,
Yeah.
that word and its several different meanings are all kind of symbolic throughout the film, which I appreciate kind of using that term and having it play into different themes, like very literal, but also kind of more abstract, like the
Okay.
bird and like, calling somebody cuckoo and cuckoo
Yeah.
clocks and kind of the where the word even comes from playing into themes of what's happening in the film and things like that. Like, what cuckoo birds actually do by
Mhm.
nature is something that plays into a lot of the themes of what happens in the film. So,
Okay.
I like
Okay.
the kind of whole meaning of the word being used in different facets of the story, but ultimately, it just felt kind of like they cut things out, like it felt a little unfinished, and they didn't really take the time to flesh out certain characters as much as they could have. So
Well, that's a little bit of a shame, really,
yeah,
because I mean, it's one I've missed as well. I feel like I've done a little bit better in the past sort of
yeah.
few months of new releases. I don't actually think we've talked about The Substance on
Yes,
Monday
yeah.
Madness either,
Mhm.
have we? Which I
No.
just really
Oh my
did love.
gosh. It was so good.
I thought it was just the best. I mean, why it had to go to such ridiculous places, I don't know, but for some reason, I was there for it when I was
Well,
watching it.
yeah. I mean, Corley
Um,
Forget, that's what she does. She loves this kind of hyper realistic, insane,
yeah,
high level of extreme level of gore and those kinds of elements because she feels like it gives a fantastical quality,
yeah,
like an imaginary fantasy quality. So even in her feature film debut, Revenge,
mm,
she had an insane amount of blood, more blood than what would normally be happening in the situation, in the kind of big finale situation than there would be, because she wanted it to feel heightened and fantastical and just kind of slightly not real.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's just we've seemed to have hit. I mean, I haven't seen Strange Darling either yet, and I do want to see
yes,
that.
it's really good.
But we seem to have hit this year a really good balance of genuine thoughtfulness
Mhm.
within the darker, more horror, more twisted movies with the camp.
Yeah.
Like, there seems to be a really, really good balance of it consistently
Yeah.
this year from what I've seen, from what you're telling me of the things you've seen that I
Mhm.
haven't. Like even in Cuckoo, there's a little bit of mix. It might not have been a perfect movie, but that mix was notable, and that balance
Yeah.
was notable, and that's fun to see, and particularly with The Substance and going from the really interesting ideas that it's going for near 2 hours to then
Go just
click
off the rails
into,
crazy. Yeah.
click into what it clicks into, and I won't say exactly what it does because spoiler territory. I mean, when did we become so conscious of spoilers on
I know, right?
anything? It's a wonderful podcast. I mean,
But
what's
yeah,
wrong
I
with
mean,
us today?
yes, but I mean, definitely, I think a film like The Substance is something you should go into,
Oh,
fairly
it's something.
blind because it's
Yeah,
crazy. You know, I
it
think a lot of
is.
people have mentioned that there is body horror in the film. Um,
Oh, yeah, well, I
I
mean, you need to know it's a
yes.
gory body horror movie before
Yes,
you
for
go in.
me, it definitely gives The Thing slash The Fly meets Death Becomes Her. That's like
Yeah,
my kind of
yeah.
defining comparison.
Really, it's just, made it perfectly clear that both Cronenbergs can do what they want with body horror, but French women own body horror
Yes.
in the 2020s and the late 2010s, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Um, the One of the strangest movies you will ever see, I think, is Titane from a few years ago. The Julia
Oh,
Ducournau,
yeah. Was that the car?
um, the car baby metal pregnancy weird
Yeah.
body switch mystery movie. Unbelievably insane movie. Didn't make a single bit of sense throughout the entire thing, and I loved
Yeah.
every second. Um, and a disgusting body horror movie as well. I'd like to also point out, like a really unsettling, just grim body
Yeah.
horror
From
movie.
what I've heard, I haven't seen it, but I have kind of seen breakdowns of it. So yeah.
But with campy elements.
Yes.
Every in odd little sections.
Well, yeah,
It just I'm
I've
just
seen that a
waiting
lot.
for more
Yes,
from
no.
these two women, these two French women, to make more movies like this,
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
wholly creative in their craziness like they are being.
Yeah, but
And
I mean, there's been a lot of fun, creative, original horror this year. Like, even if it hasn't been perfect, like The Front Room, like I mentioned, also kind of playing
yeah,
it to a campy tone. Strange Darling has a few campy elements as well. All horror kind of leaning into this really fun middle ground of just kind of playing, of kind of having realistic themes that you're used to seeing in horror, but then kind of elevating the tone. It's like this really interesting mix of uh 2000s 2010 horror, or like elevated horror, mixed with the schlockiness of the 80s and 70s, you
maybe
know.
this is just what we needed. Maybe this is
Yeah.
just what we needed. We needed to go back from everything being so serious, which
Yeah.
might be very good movies, might be very interesting movies. Obviously, we enjoy those movies that many people consider quote unquote elevated horror. Not that we enjoy that
Yeah.
particular term, but maybe we just needed to develop slightly from that. And this that we're getting in the 2020s seems to be
Yeah, no, it's
that.
definitely doesn't wanna veer away from the kind of fun, campy tones of schlocky horror from, like, the '80s and, like, late
Yeah.
'70s and that kinda thing. So, the fun, kinda silliness, over the top of those early films mixed with kind of the elevated style of 2010s horror is what I think we're getting today, which I think is a kind of cool combination of the 2.
It is. I mean, what's most interesting in this conversation, though, is the fact that we are soon to be going into Morgan's most anticipated movie of all time ever. No, it's not that much, really. But it's definitely the one of the entire year I'm most excited for. And it's obviously Robert Eggers' Nosferatu,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I have to see what he's doing with something like Nosferatu. Whether you think Nosferatu needs to be remade or anything like that, you can absolutely guarantee that this will be a worthwhile remake because it will be
Yeah.
so unbelievably idiosyncratic that it will almost feel like a different type of movie altogether.
Yes.
And being that Nosferatu is just Dracula, I mean, complaining about a Dracula movie being remade is just ridiculous at this point, considering there's been 7,000.
So many. Yes. Yeah.
But I don't imagine there's gonna be any campiness to Nosferatu. That is going to be a grim, serious movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a wonderfully grim, serious movie that is so unsettling and really, really twisted and pure kind of nightmare fuel imagery, to be honest with you. I really do get that sense from it. The trailers are unbelievable as far as I'm concerned for it. If anybody had any kind of issues with a new Nosferatu movie, I think the trailers may have changed
your mind.
Minds, because they are so good. But it's going to be interesting going from all these movies, The Substance, you know, your Front Room, Strange Darling, Blink Twice, things like this that have this balance of campiness and serious thoughtfulness, to something like Nosferatu that's what, in, I can't remember when it's coming out. November?
I think so. Yeah.
But you know, my most anticipated movie of the year, I don't even know when it's
coming.
I mean,
and it could be different for you than it is for me. So
it could, if that's not me in a nutshell, though. I don't know what it is. I'm so excited for this. Wait, when is it?
When is it coming out?
Wait, it was out 3 months ago. Oh god, it's so very me.
Yes,
but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting shift. I think we might need to watch a couple more pure serious horror before we get into that, just so we're not completely overwhelmed by a tonal shift in our horror. Because even what I've watched for our What's Up this week, because I was on a little bit of a body horror kick, I've decided for the first time in years to watch Hellraiser again.
Okay.
The first Hellraiser, which is weirdly I mean, what I remembered about Hellraiser was, I think, the bare bones of Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And I've obviously seen discussion on Hellraiser, you know, articles on Hellraiser since watching it for the first time. I mean, God knows how long. It's probably been over 10 years since I've watched Hellraiser.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it really has. But in watching it again this week, it was my 1st of October movie as well, I must say. So it's kicked me off into proper October spooky season. It is also very campy.
Yes.
Very campy. The effects work is particularly campy.
I mean, it looks great. They found some really creative ways to do it. I mean, I think when we were talking about our episode on Hollow Man, and we were very much like, you know, there could have been maybe a practical way to do these effects of him going invisible if they were going to be showing the muscle tissue and all of these kinds of things. But the digital version, there's a weird
preview to Wednesday's episode of Morgan hasn't seen.
Yes.
We have already had that discussion.
Yes. So you can hear it all there on Wednesday. But I think we talked about the digital version of those effects not looking that great. But then you see how they're able to kind of show something similar here, and you know, just using a lot of really cool camera tricks and you know, practical pullings of threads and strings and wax and things like that. And it ends up looking really cool.
You think of the ending of Hellraiser when all the Cenobites are getting put back into the puzzle box, right?
Yeah.
And it's all these kind of flashes of light and outlines.
Lightning. And,
I just love it, though. Like, you might think it looks a bit silly. You might think it looks a bit, like, ridiculous. But I love it because as a tone, Hellraiser's so dark. it's so
Gothic.
twisted.
Yeah.
And it's obviously full of this really kind of uncomfortable masochistic quality as well.
Yes, yeah, very,
That
like,
is its
sexual.
entire
Yes.
yeah, it's it is its entire aura is of this kind of sex, sadomasochism,
Yeah.
leather,
Yeah.
chains, and pain and pleasure combining. That's
Yes.
Hellraiser's entire thing.
Yes.
So when you're seeing that on in the movie, on the screen itself, all the chains going into people's skin, and obviously, you know, Frank as the monster Frank going from
Yeah.
a skeleton to developing his
The
body through
muscle
the blood.
structure and the yeah, mhm.
Like, Frank looks great. I always think Frank looks great in
Yeah.
Hellraiser as he's developing, you know, his
His
body back
parts. Yeah. Yeah.
through the killings that we're obviously getting on. But I also think it's a movie that respects who's watching it an awful lot, I think, as well. It really does, or I suppose it really doesn't make it clear what's going on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It gives you the bare minimum you need and respects you enough to understand
To kind
what's
of just
what's
understand
happening.
and figure it out. Yeah, and I love movies that kind of give you that type of credit. If they're not going into any kind of heady lore or crazy science, they give you enough that you can really follow it still and kind of just delve into, these
Yeah.
kind of strange ideas without a lot of spoon feeding.
Well, that's why there's been 400 Hellraiser movies, because it's such a interesting world that is
Yeah,
created. You can't possibly not want to explore
explore it.
further
Yes.
into it,
Yeah.
right? You forget that Pinhead himself doesn't even have a name. He's not even called Pinhead or anything like that, although we obviously know the famous image.
Yeah.
He has, like, what, 5 minutes of screen time in that
Right?
movie.
But that
He
look of him is just so iconic that, you know.
a few, you know, the odd few lines. There's 3 Cenobite scenes, I think, and that's
Yeah.
it. The obviously most of the story is what's her name, Claire, or is that the actor's name? Killing these random people
Man,
to
to get Frank back, yeah.
get Frank back because she's secretly having an affair with her husband's brother.
Yes, yes, which I think I previewed you to the really bad dubbing that they did that really
You
upset the
did.
actor.
I
Yeah,
never realized this, that the guy who actually plays Frank
in
was
human form.
overdubbed in human
Yes,
form.
and he
And I
was
could tell as
actually
soon as you told me.
yes, and it was meant to be set in the UK, but they wanted it
Mm.
to, be, I guess, palatable, I don't know, for wider audiences. So then they tried to shift it to somewhere, city, random city in America. And
Well,
so the actor actually did the dialogue with an American accent, but they still overdubbed him with a
it's
goofier
just a bit
American
it's just
accent.
a bit it's just really strange
Yeah.
because it doesn't need to be set anywhere in particular, but your lead actress is British, playing British.
Yeah.
Andrew Robinson is American, playing American. The daughter, Kirsty, is her
Yeah.
name, I think,
Kirsty
is
Cotton.
American, playing American. Why does it matter what accent the brother's using?
Yeah. But even still, the actor, who I believe is British, used an American accent when he played it. They still
Claire
dubbed
Higgins,
over
by the
it.
way, is her name. The
Yes.
lead actor.
Yes, and they still dubbed over him with another American accent, even though he played it with an American accent.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah.
It's really weird, but ultimately, it was fun to watch Hellraiser again. I enjoy the
Yeah.
fogginess of it. I enjoy the very demonic quality of it.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment, recently, for whatever reason, maybe both of us, but we have been watching, I have been watching a series of movies that have treated various elements of the sexual world in very interesting and
Yeah.
dark ways.
Yes.
And Hellraiser's very much that, isn't
Okay,
it?
well, if you're still in that headspace, then you definitely need to go straight see Strange Darling, which I think recently got
Okay.
released in the UK, so you should be
Okay.
good to check it out,
Maybe.
because that is
Maybe.
one of the themes in that film.
But it's a great, I mean, Hellraiser is great. It's
Yeah,
such
and
a
Christy Cotton, I think she's very, people see her as a very underrated final girl as well amongst, that
mm,
era of final
yeah.
girls.
Andrew Robinson always creeps me out a little bit,
Yeah.
and
Right?
by the end when it's Frank in
Frank as
his
him.
skin,
Yeah.
it's really, really creepy. And I do think the final effect on him is done really,
Really
really
good.
well.
Yeah.
The splitting of him with all the
Mhm.
chains and everything,
Yeah.
I really think that's great. Just really unsettling body horror, isn't it? Like, how far are you willing to go to allow your body to be controlled completely by something else or someone else?
Yeah.
Or how much control do you give another person? And this is presented in Hellraiser in ways in mental ways and in very, very physical ways, and with the Cenobites themselves in weird sadomasochistic ways as well.
Yeah.
Clive Barker's an insane man. He has been an insane man for decades.
Yes.
And should set his things in Britain. I mean, does set his original stories in Britain.
And then
Let's
they
not forget
change them.
Yeah, let's not forget that he wrote the story that became Candyman.
Candyman, yeah.
And set it in Liverpool. It's not a Chicago story at all.
No.
It's got nothing to do with
No.
Cabrini Green.
Yeah.
But it does, obviously, in the world of Candyman. Yeah, I mean, it's
you can
fun
go
to get
visit the
fun to get into
house.
that.
Yeah, if you just head on, take a little train to London, you can go to Cricklewood and see
I
the
don't want to
house.
take a train to London. It costs £80,000 to take a train to London.
You don't wanna go
these
to
days.
Cricklewood?
I don't want to go to Cricklewood. No,
I'm pretty sure that's what this is the name of the city is called, the town is called.
For God's sake.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Well, from all that insanity, I think, Jeannine, it's about time to get into our Let's Talk today and bring the tone to a celebratory area, not a somber area, as upset as we are, as respectful as we want to pay our respects. Oh, that didn't work, did it, as a phrase, unfortunately. I nearly got there.
You tried.
I nearly got there. To Maggie Smith. I think our discussion of the best of Maggie Smith can commence. So, I mean, I don't know where you want to begin. What are your feelings towards Maggie Smith?
I mean, obviously, I was introduced to her in her older years, so that's how I always saw her and knew her. So, I mean, definitely after her passing, it's obviously, I know it's sad that it took that to kind of spur this in me, but I definitely want to kind of seek out some of her earlier works. But it's kind of like when you know somebody in one vein, that's kind of, where they sit for you. Like for me, for a long time, like Clint Eastwood, I only ever saw him as an older man in films. So, when I did actually take the time to go back and watch a lot of his movies from the 70s and things, I was really enjoyed myself. So, there's definitely a lot of things I've since looked up that I would love to explore with her, but movies that I really fell in love with her were things like The First Wives Club. We recently talked about that film and getting her to see this, kind of comedic, affluent character. Like it was very much, I think, out of character to how I pictured her. And she was just so great in that comedic role. I loved her in the Sister Act films as well.
Yes,
that's kind of
absolutely.
how you picture her, as this, leading nun mother. And then, kind of put that against Whoopi Goldberg's comedy, and we see her kind of soften throughout that
Yeah.
film, going into the next film where she's actually calling Whoopi Goldberg to come and help, and that whole kind of relationship. For me, Hook as well. You know, she played
Mm.
older Wendy, and I loved the creativity of that story and her being this character and her relationship with you know, Peter, and you know, seeing, okay, Wendy actually went back home and aged, and seeing her play that character and still play it with, you know, that the whimsy that Wendy had in wanting to take care of everybody, and um,
Yeah.
you know, and that whole kind of thing. And like
I
they
think
aged her up far more than she even was at the time. So
yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about Maggie Smith, and I think it's something that you have to look a bit deeper into her to actually realize
yeah,
that there's an awful lot of dry comedy in
yeah,
Maggie Smith, and an awful lot of wit there. It is not just pure stern kind of quick to annoyance characters with
yeah.
Maggie Smith that she would go on to play. I mean, look at something like The Lady in the Van, right?
Mhm.
Which is where she's playing that homeless woman who's just goes about that entire movie. It's from like 2015, I think, or something like that. But she goes about that entire movie just kind of annoying people, and yes, okay, softens, but it's that typical kind of Maggie Smith kind of quick to
Yeah.
annoyance, and people are intimidated by her presence, even in that movie, as this little kind of old crazy woman
Well, yeah.
um that just seems to
Yeah.
come off her. um it's easy when we see that image of her in her later life, obviously, and her most, I think, famous
Yeah.
role in the modern era is obvious, right? We're going to get there, and
Yes. Yeah.
it's a particularly stern role that again has soft elements to it. It's the perfect Maggie Smith role in many ways.
Yeah.
It's the sternness with the softness underneath that's always there underlying. It's just recognizing that it's
Yeah.
there. And I think that's what we kind of have to do with her herself, and realize that a lot of the time, yes, she was a very, very serious actor, but she just wanted to have fun.
Oh,
She just wanted
yes. I
to
mean,
play about and mess around.
yes, I mean, I also ended up watching her in Downton Abbey. I fell in love with that
Yeah.
show, and she did play this very kind of stern character, who always kind of had a smart quip, and something funny to say, and always making these points about her age, and you know, where she stood. Um, so, yeah, I loved seeing her play that type of character who was very kind of steadfast and determined, and always had something smart to say. But yes, I think definitely, the role that we are going to discuss is a great combination of all the elements that we had seen from her throughout the movies that we fell in love, with her watching. So
Yeah. And you're absolutely right to bring up the First Wives Club. I'm very happy you brought that up. It was
yeah.
very fun to talk about her in that movie recently on Morgan
Yeah.
House Theme, because she
Yes.
is hilarious, really, in that. She's not in it a lot, but her as in that role is so unusual
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
where she's super glamorous.
Yeah, and
Um,
Chanel suits and looking her nose down at, uh, uh, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker, who's, like, sloppily eating a salad and that
it's
kind of thing.
but
Yeah,
it is played so comedically and so wonderfully comedically
yeah,
because she's always so dry. And if you go
yeah,
back and watch her interviews on various things, she's so dry all the time.
yeah,
And every little bit, you can tell she's having fun with it. You can tell she's got a twinkle in her eye every single time she makes some sort of pseudo judgmental comment on somebody. She's not being wholly serious with it, and you can
Yeah, no.
tell.
I've seen interviews with her on Graham Norton where she talks about her reaction to little kids kind of coming up to her in the store,
Yeah,
recognizing her as Professor McGonagall, and she just kind of, has weird reactions to the children when she's telling these stories, and you can tell there's a joking there, but also maybe a little bit of realness of her really just kind of,
yeah.
"Why are you talking to me,
Go away
child?"
from me, child.
Yes, and Ian McKellen has told some really funny stories
Yes.
about her, and when he kind of imitates her tone of talking, it's just so recognizable. Um,
Yeah.
it's great.
But I Sister Act, obviously, I think is a great
Yeah,
Maggie Smith role. And as we go into kind of the roles we want to see from her, they do come from decades ago rather than kind of more
yeah,
recently. I think her two Oscar wins, I think
mhm,
primarily her one for the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, which is said to be a definitive movie, not only for her, a definitive piece of acting, not only for her, because we must remember as well that there isn't an or an overly large amount of movies of Maggie Smith's from decades ago, from what we would consider her prime
yeah,
years, because she spent a great deal of time, the vast majority of the time, in the theatre, doing every such thing in the
yeah,
theatre. And I think this is it's kind of what's special about the theatre itself, right? Is because you can have all this knowledge, I think, after the fact of famous theatre performances by
yeah,
certain actors, but you can never see them because from decades ago, they weren't
yeah,
filmed. This isn't
yeah. They weren't really
Hamilton.
filming, yeah,
They weren't
these stage shows and all that kind
they
of
weren't
thing. Yeah,
filming stage shows. Unless you
yeah,
went to see it, you didn't see that.
yeah,
Unless you were there and you went to see it. That's kind of special, right?
yeah.
It's exclusive. It feels exclusive.
Mhm.
It's very, very special. You know, you can go around telling stories. I saw Laurence Olivier in whatever, right? I saw Maggie Smith in whatever. And yeah, okay, there might be filmed versions of Shakespeare and things like that. And yes, okay, Laurence Olivier and Maggie Smith were both in their Othello.
Yeah,
Um, Not that we talk about Laurence Olivier doing
in
Othello.
Othello.
Yay,
Yeah.
yay, yay. Sure he does. Okay. Let's move past that one.
Yes.
But they're both in there, obviously. Now, you can only imagine what the both of them would have been like on stage to be in the room
Yeah.
with a voice like Olivier's and a presence like Maggie Smith's that would have been so captivating to be within touching distance, to be within eyesight and earshot and the same space
Yeah.
as her, that you don't really get in a movie, obviously. So I think those movies that we do have from her in from decades ago, um, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't seen them. I would love to
Yeah.
at least cover the prime of Miss Jean Brodie
Definitely.
on the show.
I would love to do that. Death on the Nile, I mean, I think she shares the
Yeah,
screen with Betty Davis and Angela Lansbury in that film. So, she's been I think she's, been a part of some great ensemble casts. I was looking through her
she
filmography. There's a movie
has.
I I wanna check out called The Honey Pot. I think it's from 1967. It's Rex Harrison, my favorite.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yes. So, like, a pretty stacked cast, and, like, an interesting kind of fun comedic, um, plot as well, so
I think the thing as I think there's a few Poirot movies and
yeah,
Agatha Christie movies and things
yeah,
like that in the 70s. Death on the Nile being one of them. There, I think it's the Peter Ustinov Poirot time.
mhm, yeah,
So she's kind of in a couple of those. But it is always the prime of Miss Jean Brodie that people come back to with
yeah,
her from that time because it is really where she decided for whatever reason, to say, I'm going to do this movie because I think it was a book, a very successful book. It was a big famous story. And when somebody spends so much time in the theatre, so much time working in the theatre, and then not out of nowhere, there'd been some movies, right? But out of nowhere decides to lead a movie, win an Oscar, and then go back to not leading movies again.
Yeah.
That's notable. That is there for a reason. If only for her to perfect her posh Scottish accent.
Yeah.
It's there. Which she, of course, needs a certain upper class Scottish accent.
Yes.
And if of course, I suppose if and when we come to talk the prime of Miss Jean Brodie on the main show, it will give me the opportunity to be able to talk like this the entire show, because this is the exact accent that is used by Maggie Smith in that movie. It's so soft, I could listen to it all day.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way of speaking, and there's people who actually do speak like that. I mean, Miss Jean Brodie was a real person that spoke like that. I remember watching an episode of a British kind of quiz panel show called QI, hosted by Stephen Fry. And there's a bit where he tells a story about Maggie Smith going for the role of Miss Jean Brodie, and I think Maggie Smith had told him this story at some point. And she'd phoned up the real Miss Jean Brodie, and the real Miss Jean Brodie got very offended when Maggie Smith asked her if she could come and meet her to understand her accent, to really
hear her
focus in on her accent and developing. And apparently Miss Jean Brodie got very offended and refused to acknowledge that she had any accent at all. Yet she spoke like that, right? Yet she spoke in that phenomenal sing-song way.
Yeah, she thought she was speaking very normally.
It's
funny.
Great to hear these stories, obviously. I want to go and watch these older movies.
Yes,
absolutely,
definitely.
As we both, but we are and have been dotting around the performance and the series that I think it defines Maggie Smith for an awful lot of people. I don't think that's a bad thing. I've seen since her passing, I've seen some people, I think quite cynically, come out and say, well, if she's only ever remembered for Professor McGonagall, what does that, what does that show? Well, the thing is, I do think it was such a special older cast in Harry Potter, right? Because what it did was introduce young people, children at the time, to all these
older
old actors. Or not old, I suppose. Some of them were in, the 40s, I suppose, but who are in this known thing. I mean, it's why people of that style of acting do big series movies like this, right? Because they can be introduced
to a wider audience,
to such a wider audience, to the vast majority of the population, that can then say, oh, I like them in that movie. I like Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall. What else has she done? And then you go on the rabbit hole, then you get on the train and you keep going. And you do it with everybody. You do it with Richard Harris, you do it with Michael Gambon, you do it with Alan Rickman, you do it with everybody, John Hurt, everybody. I mean, so many people from the older cast of Harry Potter as well have passed away now. And a good few of the notable, really, really notable ones as well, not just kind of the very, very tertiary characters. So I think watching, going back and watching Harry Potter as we can more than comfortably do, it doesn't mean we like the creator of Harry Potter just because we watch it. It will continue to get kind of more and more solemn, I think, at
Yes,
times when you watch
knowing
it.
that they're just not there anymore, for sure. Yeah, I think she was so great in that role. I totally agree with, her being able to introduce herself to a wider audience with that character. And just considering how impactful it was, considering everything that's going on in these movies, how big these casts are, that her character, with what little she did in her moments, was impactful enough to be remembered for that.
Yeah.
I think is
When you
really
actually
special.
think about it, look,
Yeah, I mean,
the teachers aren't in, apart from, Gambon, really,
yeah,
the teachers are not in a
not
lot
mm-mm.
of those movies. They're not. They need to do what they need to do in the scenes. And McGonagall's in, I mean, she's in less than Alan Rickman is.
Yeah.
She's in less than probably, I mean, what? Is she in less of the Harry Potter movies than even David Thewlis as Lupin is?
Yeah, I mean,
Possibly.
she's probably in it maybe as much as Filch, like,
Right? And that's mad
yeah.
when you think about it. Yet it's those super important moments in those movies, in those stories that she
Yes,
gets all the time,
and for
particularly early on.
yes, but I mean, even in the final battle when she's doing that spell and she's saying that speech, like,
Yes.
"Do your duty to our school," and all of that thing, and then
Yeah.
she gets all cute and says, "I always wanted to do that
Yes.
spell," and I literally cry every time I see that moment. Like, I don't know what it is about how she's just, like, commanding this moment. It makes me tear up every time, and so now I'm gonna be, like, full on bawling the next time I
Mm.
watch that part because before she passed, that scene affected me emotionally, just how she delivered it and
Yeah.
then went into this, like, cute little kind of giggly moment at the end of it, was so endearing that I
And
always got emotional.
Molly Weasley stood next to her
Just
going,
stood
"This
there.
is not the time for
Time for
laughter,
that.
Minerva."
Exactly. Like, when no one reacts with her, I can always get a little sad. Um, but yeah, I mean, I always have a reaction to that moment, to that scene. Um,
Mm.
so the fact that now that she's gone, I'm probably going to be feeling
Yeah.
it even harder. But yeah, and so everyone sharing that scene on the day of her passing was
Yes,
just
that
like,
that scene, her stepping in to
yeah.
fight Snape in the Great Hall at the end
Yes.
as well. Obviously, I mean, go back to the very beginning. Go back to the movie she probably has the most to do in, which is Philosopher's Stone. She's probably
Yes,
in that
and her
more
kind
than
of
she's in
nod at the
any of the
end.
others.
Yes, and, she bookends that movie.
She
She's at
does.
the beginning delivering Harry, and at the end, she kind of gives him the wink that she got him the broom and all
Yeah,
of that. Yeah.
doing the sorting
Yes.
ceremony, telling them
Mhm.
off when they go into the forest, sending them
Yeah.
off into the forest. Well, she is
The dance
welcome to
class.
Hogwarts.
Yeah.
The dance class from Goblet of Fire, the most
Mhm.
hilarious of all Harry Potter movies,
Yeah.
consistently. There's not a scene in Goblet of Fire I don't find funny, by the way.
Yeah, that's my
Every
favorite.
little bit of Goblet of
Yeah.
Fire is just laughter fuel. It's the
Yeah.
stupidest movie.
Yes.
Um, but it's just wonderful. I remember going to Oxford a few years ago, and the steps leading up to the Great Hall in the first in
Mhm.
Philosopher's Stone, and McGonagall's obviously at the top, and welcome first years and all that business.
Yeah,
Welcome to
totally.
Hogwarts in front of that door. It's there. That it's a whole building. It's in a
Yeah.
university in Oxford, in one of the colleges. And if I went back there now, and you recreated that scene
Yeah.
as it was, it's even more impactful because she's no longer there. She's no longer with
Yeah.
us. She can't
She's
go
no
there
longer
herself and do it
welcoming
now.
us to Hogwarts. Yeah.
It's someone else, but I think obviously for an awful lot of people, and particularly those of close to my generation, whether it's 20 years before me,
Yeah.
McGonagall doesn't matter as much, right? Probably not. But she will always be McGonagall first,
Yeah.
which sets the train in motion to go on to all these other things. It's the
Yes.
first time we recognize her as her, for me.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be special, right? It's
Yeah.
always going to be
Always.
incredibly special. And
Yeah.
every little scene she has in those movies, I mean,
It's memorable and
you go and
feels
you go and read.
special.
It does,
Yeah.
but you go and read Harry Potter and you're picturing her and you're saying
Hearing
it
her
in your
voice.
head
Yeah.
in her voice as in those movies.
Yeah.
And every little scene of hers, great. I do enjoy. Is it at the beginning of Half-Blood Prince where I think she tells Harry to go to potions class with Slughorn and take Ron with him because he looks like he's having far too much fun over there.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
The spiteful battle with Umbridge in Order of the Phoenix that
Yes.
she has,
Mhm.
the venom coming out of her mouth is hilarious.
Yeah.
And just great. The consoling Trelawney in that movie when
Oh
she
my
gets
gosh,
nearly
yes.
gets sacked. It's just every scene of Maggie Smith in
Yeah.
Harry Potter
The awarding of
means
points and taking away of points with the troll.
Prisoner of Azkaban. I have to be the stern teacher. I'm sorry, rules are rules. You can't come. You've not got your letter signed.
Yeah.
You can't come to Hogsmeade. Every scene is just something
So
memorable.
memorable, yeah.
Every
Sheer
single
dumb
one.
luck. Yeah, so many lines you
Sheer
just go,
dumb luck.
yeah. Yeah,
It's just great.
yeah.
Every little bit. It's so good. It's so
Yes.
good. The pain in Chamber of Secrets when she realizes everything that's going on.
Yeah.
She's wearing that little night bonnet thing.
Yeah.
It's just
So good.
great.
Yeah.
No, we love Maggie Smith.
You do.
We're very sad she's no longer with us.
Yes,
And
and hopefully some episodes in the future to explore some of her other films. Definitely.
yeah, definitely. I do think though it's maybe time to get into some Maggie Smith fun and games.
Yes.
Jeannine. Now, what do you have for me? Obviously, you're going first, as you always do.
Yes. I have a 6 degrees for you. So I have 3 different 6 degrees. Maggie Smith to somebody who's kind of related to her in a way, whether it be through a character type or even a name. So I
A
have three of
name.
yes, so you'll see. So there are 3 actors that you need to connect Maggie Smith to.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting. 6 degrees though. I've been getting better at 6 degrees in
You
season
have, you
2
have.
of Monday
Yes.
Madness.
Yes.
What I have for you though is very specifically, and we have just been talking about it, a Minerva McGonagall quiz.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna do good
So
on that.
I don't think it will be too bad for you, to
Okay.
be honest with you. I don't. I can't remember exactly how many questions there are.
Because
There's
if
not
it's book
many.
things, I don't.
We'll see. We'll see what goes. All
Okay.
right. We'll see how this goes. Okay. Question number 1: which animal can Minerva McGonagall transfigure into?
Ooh, a cat.
A cat. Yes, very nice. Which of course also happens to be her Patronus. Did you know that? Yes, that's very nice. What is Minerva McGonagall's blood status? Because obviously blood status is very
Oh,
important in Harry Potter.
yes. I believe
Weird
she's
eugenics nonsense.
I know. I think is she a half-blood?
She is, yes, she is a half-blood. Her mother was a witch. Mother was a witch there. Now, in the first movie,
Mhm.
which student does Professor McGonagall place the sorting hat on first?
Oh. Is it Ronald Weasley.
It is not Ronald Weasley, actually. No, it isn't, unfortunately.
Oh, it's what's-her-face? Christopher Columbus's daughter who plays...
It is not.
No, it's not her. It's
not
Draco.
Crystal.
It's Draco.
It's not Draco.
No?
It's not, no. The first person to get sorted in the movie
is Hermione.
Hermione.
Yes. Yes, I see.
Inexplicably, because there's no alphabetical reason it should be Hermione. Hannah Abbott should be the first person to go up. She isn't. And it's annoying.
Yeah, like they should have had some rhyme or reason to the sorting, but it's just
they do in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
It is alphabetical.
They rush through some, like literally, it barely touches Draco's head, and it's already like Slytherin.
Oh, that's the case anyway. That's the he's Mr. Slytherin over there.
Yeah.
Okay. The little bit of a thinker for you.
Okay.
Okay. In the Philosopher's Stone, how many total points does Professor McGonagall take from Gryffindor after finding Harry, Hermione, and Neville wandering around the corridors at night? How many total points does she take from her own house?
I know.
Thus putting the competition into jeopardy for herself purely because she loves the rules so much.
I don't know, is it 15 points? Did she take 5 points from each of them?
No, it isn't. When she finds them wandering the corridors at night, she takes 50 points each.
Oh, that's
for
a lot.
A total of 150 points.
Damn, Minerva.
From her own house.
I know. Well,
from her own house. She might be sweet, but she's also frightening.
Stern. Yes.
Very, very frightening. Did Minerva McGonagall play Quidditch during her time at Hogwarts?
I believe she did.
She did, yes, she did. She got an injury in the final year, in case you didn't know, which I think stopped her. What's the word? Pursuing that,
pursuing it.
As a career option. Do you know what the wand core of Minerva McGonagall is?
I do not know.
Would you like to hazard a guess?
No.
No, the dragon heartstring.
Okay. That's the same as Lucius.
Yes, it is, I think. Yes. Did Minerva McGonagall teach charms at Hogwarts before becoming the Transfiguration Professor?
No.
True or false?
False?
Yes, that is right. She has only ever taught Transfiguration, but did later become the head of the department, and then obviously headmistress herself post Mr. Dumbledore and Snape.
Yes.
For that short time. In the movie, who does Minerva McGonagall say this to? And his name is Voldemort. You might as well use it. He's going to try and kill you either way.
Oh.
I should have done the accent there.
I know, but I could have pictured the scene. Oh, what did she say?
And his name is Voldemort. You might as well use it. He's going to try to kill you either way. It's a Deathly Hallows line. Right before the battle.
Oh, is it Professor Flitwick?
It is. Very nice. Very nice. Well done. Now, what is the spell? You spoke about it before.
I know.
What is the spell that she uses to unleash the
I don't
statue?
remember what it's called.
You don't have any guess, any hazard of
Don't
guess?
remember what it's called, no.
Nothing.
No, I don't
I've
remember.
always wanted to use that
spell. Yes, but I don't remember what the spell itself is called.
In the accent, per totem locomotor.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Very nice. And I think this is the last question, question number 10, which I would be stunned if you know this. What was the name of Minerva McGonagall's husband who passed away 3 years into their marriage? This is an outrageous name.
I know. I don't know his name, but isn't there a portrait of him?
Quite possibly there is a portrait of him. His name is Elphinstone Urquhart.
Yeah, no, that would never.
They met while working for the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. However, a side note is that Minerva McGonagall's true love was in fact a Muggle man, I believe called Douglas.
Oh.
Some Scottish man.
Okay.
But that didn't work out. Don't know why that didn't work out, you know. She was a half-blood herself.
I know, so she's not against
why. There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason. But yes, there you go. 10 nice Minerva McGonagall questions.
Well, yes, if things I didn't remember or know, I learned, so I'm happy.
Oh, God.
Okay. So 6 degrees of Maggie Smith. 3
Not Kevin Bacon.
No.
He's coming on Wednesday in Hollow Man.
Yes,
Hollow Man.
Yeah. Oh, you'll see our discussion. All right. So 3 different connections. So first off, we're gonna connect Maggie Smith to Will Smith.
No, for God's sake.
I came up with 2 different options because the first option I came up with probably includes a movie that I don't know that you've heard of.
Maggie Smith to Will Smith.
Yes.
Please, you're not going to not allow me to use Harry Potter, right?
No, you can use Harry Potter. Yes. My second option is a Harry Potter option.
Okay. Maggie Smith to Will Smith.
Yeah.
Will Smith. What's a quick way of getting to Will Smith? To Will Smith might be something through Men in Black. Is something through Men in Black?
My 2 don't have Men in Black, but
hey. Don't have Men in Black. Oh, yeah. I mean, if we're going for Harry Potter, we've got a wide berth of actors there. Very, very wide berth of actors that we have to get to Will Smith. Do we go for a Men in Black? Do we go? No, we're not going to Bad Boys or anything like that, are we? We're not going Will Smith. I mean, there's been so much. Let's think of more Will Smith movies.
I mean, if you want, I can tell you the Will Smith movie that I
tell me the Will Smith movie.
Okay, so for one of them, it was a film called 6 Degrees of Separation, which I don't know if you've heard of.
That's just this. That's what we're doing now.
No, but there's a movie. There is a movie called that, which I thought was pretty funny. That ended up.
I don't know who's in that movie. I'm sorry.
Yes. Or Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State. Who's in with Enemy of the State? Oh, who's in Enemy of the State with him?
This also it connects to Harry Potter if you use Harry Potter.
Who is in Enemy of the State?
A lot of people are in Enemy of the State.
I don't know. You know, can I go to Independence Day?
Sure.
Can I go to? Why am I going to Goldblum? What use is Goldblum? Goldblum's no use, is he?
I mean, Invasion.
Donald. Invasion of Body Snatcher, Donald Sutherland. If Jeff Goldblum, Invasion of Body Snatchers, Donald Sutherland.
He was actually in 6 Degrees of Separation.
It was in 6 Degrees of Separation. There you go. But which doesn't matter.
No, it does. I'm
going backwards.
Yes.
No, it doesn't because I'm going backwards.
Yes, but obviously there's somebody else in that movie that connects to Maggie
Okay,
Smith.
So I've got to the same person. Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland and anybody from Harry Potter. There's got to be things there.
It's gotta be something.
There has to be things there. Think, man. Think. What's wrong with me? Oh, there's something seriously wrong with me. What's going on? Why don't I know? Why can't I think? I hate this. This is what's wrong with 6 Degrees. My mind doesn't
I know.
work
Well, let me know
properly.
when you want to just give up.
Oh, God. I think when I've got too much choice, my mind just doesn't go.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell from Harry Potter do I go to? You know,
I have one.
I need a
I have
specific
one person.
person. Do you have a specific? Can you
I
tell
do.
me the person from Harry Potter you're going from?
Richard Harris.
Richard Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Harris. Richard Harris. Oh God! I mean, Richard Harris is in All Souls, Camelot. Was Donald Sutherland in Camelot? No, he wasn't. Where's Richard Harris? Unforgiven. That's what's. I've only got Unforgiven.
Yes,
in
you're
my
there.
mind.
Yeah.
Unforgiven.
Yes.
How am I there? Donald Sutherland's not Unforgiven.
No, but not Donald Sutherland, but somebody else.
Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman.
Yes.
Gene Hackman.
Yes.
Gene Hackman is in something with Donald Sutherland. Enemy of the
No.
State.
Yes.
Yes, of course he is.
Yes. So that was the one I knew you would with movies that you had heard of. So Maggie Smith was in Harry Potter with Richard Harris, who was in Unforgiven with Gene Hackman, who was in Enemy of the State with Will Smith. But my other one was Maggie Smith was in First Wives Club with Stockard Channing, who is in the 6 Degrees of Separation.
Okay.
Will Smith. Which that was one of his one of his early roles. And weirdly enough, he talks about in his book how he when he got so deep into that role that he fell in love with Stockard Channing.
Okay.
Yes. So
fair enough.
Yes. Okay. So
sorry, I forgot Gene Hackman was in Enemy of the State. I don't know who I was picturing. Maybe Tommy Lee Jones, but that's obviously Men in Black.
Yes. Maggie Smith, she plays Minerva McGonagall, who is a witch.
Yes.
Someone else who also played a witch is Angelica Houston, who played the Grand High Witch in The Witches. So Maggie Smith to Angelica Houston.
Maggie, God.
I mean, I found a pretty quick one.
I found a quick
with a movie we talked about. A movie I just mentioned. And a movie we talked about.
Angelica Houston. Angelica Houston movies? I don't even know that many Angelica Houston movies.
Well, it's probably the biggest one you would know.
The Witches.
Other than The Witches.
I don't know.
What is the other biggest role that Angelica Houston is known for?
An earlier role than that.
No, later.
Is it a later role than that?
Mm-hmm. What is her biggest role you would know her for?
that one.
No.
It is.
No.
Have I seen this movie?
Yes.
I don't know. Addams Family.
There you go.
Idiot.
Yes, that's definitely what I was thinking.
Yeah, right. Okay. Addams Family.
So how do you get to Addams Family? It's a very easy one.
From Maggie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's in Addams Family? Who's in Addams Family? There's somebody weird in Addams Family. There's somebody odd
Think
in
of
Addams
the first
Family.
one. Think of the first
one. The first Addams Family.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I need to think British people, don't I?
No, it's not a British person.
Not British people. But there's one. Is it a Harry Potter?
She was in a movie with somebody in the movie that we talked about quite a bit.
First Wives Club.
Yes. Who was she in First Wives Club with? That was also in Addams Family.
Somebody who was in Addams Family.
The first one.
There's loads of people in the First Wives. Diane Keaton. Dan Hedaya.
Yes.
No. Yes, of course he is, isn't he? He's the weird lawyer person.
Yes. And he is the
Yes.
husband of Bette Midler in The First Wives Club.
Yes,
Yes, you got it. Okay, and lastly,
Oh,
Maggie Smith played a nun in
yes.
Sister Act. Meryl Streep also played a nun. This should be
Yes.
this is a very easy one as well. It's incredibly easy
Of course
one.
it is.
So Maggie Smith to Meryl Streep, very easy.
Maggie Smith to Meryl Streep.
Yes,
Meryl
very easy.
I mean, which Meryl Streep movie could you possibly go with? Maggie Smith to Meryl Streep. It's got to be Potter.
No, it's not Potter.
No.
Well, at least that's not what I did. It's literally super easy. One actor connects them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just which Meryl Streep movie is it? It's just which Meryl Streep movie is it? Early Meryl Streep movie.
Yes. One actor connects them.
Early Meryl Streep.
Also a movie we discussed here today. Well, I discussed more than you discussed.
A Meryl Streep movie.
No, the
Maggie Smith movie.
Yes.
With Death on the Nile.
No.
With what do you call it? I don't know. What I've forgotten. Sister Act. No. Why? What's wrong with me?
I don't know what's wrong with you.
I can't figure out whether I'm going from Meryl Streep or from Maggie Smith, and which way I'm going.
It doesn't matter. There's one actor.
I know that's what I'm saying, but I've got to think about who co-starred with Maggie Smith or who co-starred with Meryl Streep.
Technically, they don't really have any scenes together.
Oh, for God's sake.
But they're in the same movie.
All three of them?
No. The actor that Maggie Smith is in the movie with that connects her to Meryl Streep, technically they don't really have any scenes together in the movie that connects them.
And I know these movies.
Yes, I mentioned it just now when we were talking about Maggie Smith.
Oh, I don't remember. I hate this. What movie is it?
Hook.
With Meryl Streep? Dustin Hoffman.
Yes, and
Kramer versus Kramer.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, God.
I love breaking your brain with these. So fun.
It does. My brain just doesn't work for 6.
I mean, and you jinxed yourself, I think, because you were like, I'm getting better at these.
Probably did.
Yeah, no, serviceable job. You needed some clues, but you got there. The Dan Hedaya was mostly your own, so I'm proud of you.
Mostly, yeah. It was very clue focused. There's me showing myself up in 6 degrees again. Well done, fun and games. Yay, good show.
Yes,
good show. Nice show today. Fun show. Talked a good bit of fun horror. Celebrated Maggie Smith. Exciting times back on Monday Madness today. Of course, it's not the only show we have on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed, nor is it the only thing on the YouTube channel. Do subscribe and ding your notification bell on the YouTube channel for all the fun stuff we have here. And of course, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts on all major podcast platforms. Check out the channel as well as the social media that has been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. If you are watching for the question videos and things like that we love or reading your answers from on episodes of MHS or the main show, we enjoy that greatly. Of course, Morgan Hasn't Seen is every Wednesday, and we've mentioned it today that this Wednesday's is, of course, Hollow Man, Paul Verhoeven's Hollow Man from 2000. On It's a Wonderful Podcast, the main show, International Horror is taking center stage on, every Friday there, celebrating always over there. If you would like to support us on Patreon, or donate in any way, there are links in the description of this episode to go and do that. But I will read out the social media for those just listening to this episode today. We love you too. You can find us on the app formerly known as Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. Find me over there at the Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E and the because, Jeannine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram and TikTok at the Purple Dawn. All your Maggie Smith stuff is where.
You can find me at Jeannine _on Twitter, Jeannine on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search It's a Wonderful Podcast on teespring.com. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
There we go. There is, of course, only one thing left to do, and please, Jeannine,
in
your best posh Scottish.
No.
Purely for Miss Jean Brodie and Minerva McGonagall.
No. If you want somebody to do it, you need to do it, because you've proven that you can actually do it. So take it away.
Okay. I'll do it then. 3, 2, 1. Bye.